Welcome to Tuesday's Tips. Today's topic is your learning preference is... All right, Tuesday Tips are 15-minute or less mini workshops where we talk about essential success skills that students need to be successful here at Lehigh Carbon Community College. My name is Michael, and I'm a learning specialist, and I'm with Educational Support Services. And as a learning specialist, I help students with test taking, techniques, test anxiety, study skills, time management, organization, goal setting, project management, learning strategies, understanding learning styles, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I want to give a shout out to my colleague Callie, who is in charge of the first year experience, who is a proud sponsor of this Tuesday Tips. All right, so here's a quick agenda. We're going to start with a couple of questions I want you to think about. And then we're going to go to one big question. We'll look at learning preferences, and we'll talk some additional notes about learning in general. All right, so what's your preferences? So let's start with two small key questions. Right? What is your favorite class you are currently taking, and why? What is your least favorite class you are currently taking, and why? What do you think about those? Have some answers? Okay. Now I have a big question for you here. Just a big question. So your professor is presenting to you something new, interesting, and some information you never heard before, right? So it's like a new material in class, right? Which of these four questions comes first to your mind? First thing you think about when the new information comes out. Why do I need to know this? What do I need to know? How can I use this information? What if this information was applied elsewhere or was different? Which of those four questions? So let's look at those again, right? So what are you, right? You know, are you a whyer, a whatter, a hower, or a what-ifer? What we mean by that is, think about that when I ask something new is coming up, something new your instructor is presenting, what comes to your mind first? Why do I need to know this? You're a whyer. What do I need to know? You're a whatter. How can I use this information? You're a hower. Or what if this information was applied elsewhere or was different? A what-ifer. Okay, let's talk about these, what these kind of mean, and demonstrate these a little bit. So a whyer wants to relate the learning to the personal life. In other words, they're saying, what does this mean to me? They love personal connections. They love stories, right? Now, when a whyer buys a car, they're thinking in terms of past cars they've owned. They're thinking in terms of, oh, I've owned this car. My grandfather owned this car. I really like this car. Okay. Whatters, they want order, structure, research, schedules, facts, and processes. They love syllabi, order, outlines, and agendas. When a whatter is buying a car, they want to do research and think about their current needs. What do I need this car for? A hower, right, wants to apply it, participate. They want to kind of roll up their sleeves and get to work on things already. They love activities and discussions. They love group projects. When buying a car, howers are going to be looking under the hood, talking a lot to the salespeople, right, taking it for test drives and see how it handles. What-ifers, they want to challenge. They want to see the big picture. They want to see, they have goals beyond the classroom, right? They love overviews and big pictures, and they love what I call the imagined situations. What could we imagine? Imagine what we could do with this information, right? So when buying a car, they think about what's possible. What can I use this for? What can I use this for? Think, what can I do with this? Now, these learning preferences, right, have some challenges to them. You know, whyers hate feeling ignored. Right, so the professor, if they're the ones who might very often say, hey, how was your weekend, professor? And the professor kind of blows them off. They kind of really hate that because they want to have a personal connection with their professor, right? They can quit listening to lectures when they don't see a connection to how it applies to them. They also can be picky sometimes in their worldview when other people have different experiences than they do, right? So sometimes that's one of the challenges for whyers when they're digesting new information. Whatters hate personal sharing. It's too touchy-feely, right? They want to kind of move on. They're like, okay, that's great, but let's move on. Tell me what I need to know. They often have trouble with color commentary that helps other learning preference folks to kind of get a better picture of things. And they also have this tendency to focus too much on date and data, right? They kind of focus on too much online. They're good at memorizing things, but sometimes they miss the bigger picture. Howers, they hate data, right? And too much structure and being told X. They really hate being told how to do something, right? They like to figure that stuff out. Sometimes, however, they can be ready to go too soon. They can kind of say, yeah, let's get to work on this project. But sometimes they have a hard time because they don't have a complete understanding of how the whole process is going to work, and they have to restart again. So these are sometimes the students who start a paper before the professor kind of went too much into explaining how it's done. They really want to get their hands in, they really want to do it, but they kind of don't have all the pieces they need to do that project well. What ifers? They hate when they can't have input and there's no creativity, right? They think when things are static or locked in place. They can get lost in their favorite state where they kind of imagine things. Imagine what if we did this? What if we did this? What if we did that? What if we did this, right? We can kind of get lost in this space of imagining possibilities, right? They can lose productivity when things need to get done. They have a hard time getting started or picking a decision sometimes. Okay, so learning preferences are slightly different than learning styles. They tend to be much more holistic in nature. There's a tendency for some to like some approaches and different like others, right? That's why we ask that big question. And sometimes people are more comfortable in some spaces and more uncomfortable in other spaces, right? Waters and wires are really kind of sometimes at odds with each other about where they're comfortable. You know, I like the personal stories. I don't like the personal stories. You can see a difference there, right? Keep in mind your engagement with the learning creates your success in your courses. So other things to keep in mind: context, subject, and time changes people and their learning ideas, right? We kind of evolve, we change as we're learning through different spaces. Okay, learning, grades, and testing are all different things. Keep that in mind too. Now, biggest thing here I want you to take away from this: you can't control what happens in class, but you have complete control of your learning outside of the classroom. So maximize your learning outside the classroom. All right. Now, also remember, some teaching approaches may interfere with your learning for a period of time, right? As the teacher's hitting all the different learning preferences and all the different learning styles, sometimes they have some conflicts. So understand this and make the best of it. Adjust and challenge yourself to reach out of your element every once in a while. So howers try to reach out to think about what others might want, and whaters think about what ifs might be wanting. So challenge yourself every once in a while. But keep in mind, you're responsible for your learning in college. Others can help you, but you're ultimately responsible for it. Okay, tell us what you thought. You know, let me know. I love to hear what you guys feel. Give us some feedback. Really appreciate you guys. And thanks for joining us on Tuesday Sips, and we'll see you next week.